Hey guys, I'm Molly Yeh from Girl Meets Farm, and today I'm going to show you how to make a Thanksgiving leftovers hot dish. So we're just going to make a homemade cream soup, layer it up with leftover turkey and wild rice, and then top it with the best part, stuffing. So if you're cooking along with me, make sure you have all of your Turkey Day leftovers handy. Let's get started with the cream soup. Get a big pot or brazier heating over your stove at medium heat, and then melt 6 tablespoons of butter. You still have butter left over after Thanksgiving, right? Okay, just let your butter melt and then let's get chopping up our carrots. So to chop these up, I like to just chop them in half this way and then chop them the hot dog way. And then chop them lengthwise into nice small pieces. And then turn them to the side and then chop them into dices. Okay, so we're making a hot dish. What's a hot dish? A hot dish is a type of casserole that's essentially a full meal in a casserole dish. So you've got your protein, you've got some veggies, you've got a starch, and then it's all held together by a cream soup mixture, or sometimes a tomato soup mixture, but that's neither here nor there. Today we're making a really creamy take on a classic, a wild rice hot dish, and it's gonna be awesome because we're gonna use up all of our Thanksgiving leftovers. So I like to start with my carrots because they take longest to cook. So I'll just finely dice these. I love hot dishes because they're the type of food that you wanna eat when it's cold outside and maybe raining or snowing. And my favorite thing to do is just sit on the couch underneath the blanket and eat a big bowl of hot dish. And a great part about this hot dish is that you can switch up the veggies, you can switch up the meats, you can do different flavorings in the soup, different herbs and such. So if you have some green bean casserole left over, you could totally toss that in. If you have corn casserole, or if you didn't cook a turkey for Thanksgiving, if you, I don't know, went crazy and made ham, you can totally use that instead. Do you smell the butter yet? I do. Okay, now once your carrots are all chopped up, you can scoop them up and add them right to your butter. That's a good little sizzle there. That's how you know your pan is hot enough. Okay, and as your carrots start to cook, you can chop up your onions and celery. So to chop up my onions, I just cut both ends off and then cut it in half. And then lay the cut side down, and then you're gonna hold them, and I want you to turn your knife so that it's parallel to the cutting board, and just cut gently along the equator. And then I'm gonna take my knife and I'm gonna make lots of little cuts parallel to each other. I don't wanna go all the way through the onion though, because I want the onion to be held together by the end. So I'm just gonna make a cut almost all the way through, but not totally, and just keep on going. And it's always good to use a sharp knife. It's safer that way, you'll have more control. And then I'm gonna dice it up. And then once you get to the end, when it's kind of like difficult to cut, you can just put it on your side and chop it up like so. Now I'm just gonna do the same thing with the rest of the onion. And now you can dump your onion into the butter. Warning, your houses are about to smell really good. And now lastly, chop up your celery stalks. So to do that, I first chop them in half like so, and then I turn them and then chop them into little pieces vertically. And as you're chopping, just try to get everything uniformly sized so that they cook evenly. This hot dish that we're making right now is actually a take on the first hot dish that I ever tasted. My mother-in-law made it for me, and she made me her turkey wild rice hot dish. And it was just so comforting and hearty. It's like the kind of food that you crave. And I immediately fell in love. It's a super nostalgic food for people who grew up with it. And I'm just running my knife right down the stalks, making sure to get evenly sized celery pieces. And now you can put these into your pan. Okay. Okay, now add a good pinch of kosher salt. And this is actually gonna help the vegetables cook a little quicker because it's gonna draw the moisture out. You can do 2 pinches if you want. It's kind of a lot of vegetables. Now grab a spoon or spatula and just stir this around and make sure the butter gets all up into all the vegetables. Oh, it smells so good. Do you smell that? Okay, now you should let these cook until they're softened and the onions are translucent, so about 10 to 12 minutes. Okay, once your vegetables are soft, now it's time to add the flour. So add 3/4 of a cup of all-purpose flour, and this is gonna help thicken up the sauce. And for those gluten-free friends out there, gluten-free all-purpose flour will also work in this. Okay, so just dump this right into the pan. And the combination of the butter and the flour creates what's called a roux. And that roux paste is gonna be used to thicken up milk to make the creamy sauce. So stir this around. And your pan is gonna start to look dry as the flour gets incorporated, but that's okay, that's what we want. And we just wanna cook it for another minute or 2, and that's gonna cook off the flour flavor. So just make sure the flour gets fully incorporated. And this flour and butter mixture, the roux, is the same thing I use to make mac and cheese, to make any sort of thick, creamy soup, or any sauce. And so knowing how to make a roux is a great thing to have in your repertoire. Okay, now that the flour has cooked a little bit, let's grab our milk. Whole milk, 2%, fat-free milk, those will all do in this. Whole milk will taste the best because it's the fattiest. I usually just eyeball this. We're gonna add 3 cups of milk, but we're gonna add it gradually. We don't wanna add it all at the same time because otherwise the sauce won't thicken properly. So just start with about a cup. You can measure this if you want, or you can eyeball it. And then stir it in. And stir it in pretty well because once that roux combines with the milk, it's gonna thicken the milk into the sauce. Okay, starting to look creamy already. And now I'm ready for the 2nd cup of milk. So just gradually pour this in. Okay, and then once that roux mixes into the milk, it's gonna thicken the milk and make the sauce that's gonna hold together the hot dish. This is essentially the homemade version of a canned cream soup. So making it from scratch just makes it even better. I'm ready for the next bit of milk. The bottom of my pan is starting to get a little scorched, so I'm gonna turn the heat down. Oh, this is also a great mixture to use for chicken pot pie. It smells so cozy. I'm gonna add a little bit more. So you wanna stir this mixture continuously until it thickens. So just lean against your counter, stir it slowly, and just enjoy this process. If you guys are smelling what I'm smelling, it smells so good. Okay, this is what your mixture should look like. It's thick, it coats the back of my spatula. It's basically the consistency of a cream soup. Your mixture should be thickened just like this, and now we're gonna flavor it with chicken bouillon. I'm gonna add 2 tablespoons of this. Oh, it's gonna be so good. Chicken bouillon is one of my favorite ways to add tons of flavor really easily. Okay, stir this in. And then I also like adding some dried rosemary. That herby touch is just perfect. Dried thyme would also be nice. just get those herbs in there. Or if you have leftover fresh herbs, you could just chop them up and add them to this too. And if you just break it up with your fingers, it helps get the flavors out and it breaks it up into smaller pieces. Okay, and then a little more salt and pepper. And this is just to taste. Ooh, that rosemary smells so good. Stir this in. And then at this point, you should probably taste it to make sure that the flavor is where you want it to be. It's gonna be hot, be careful. How is it? Good? Tastes just like chicken soup. The salt level is where I want it to be, and I'm really getting that rosemary. Okay, now it's time to assemble. So grab all of your Thanksgiving leftovers. I've got my leftover turkey, leftover stuffing, and some wild rice. If you didn't make wild rice at your Thanksgiving feast, just boil some up. And then also grab a casserole dish. Great. Let's make sure everything is ready. So I have some wild rice, which I love. It adds a great chewy nuttiness. And then my stuffing, which is gonna go on top of the hot dish. Stuffing might be my favorite part about Thanksgiving. And then also my leftover turkey. And I don't know about you guys, but we made a gigantic turkey for Thanksgiving this year. So we have a lot of it left over. You want it to be chopped or shredded into little pieces. Grab a ladle. And now to assemble this, just layer all of these ingredients into your casserole dish. So start with about 1/3 of the cream soup mixture. Okay, and then spread it all over the bottom of your casserole dish. Let me get a little bit more in there. And now take your wild rice and scatter a nice layer of wild rice on top of the cream soup. I love the wild rice in this dish, and it's great texture. Wild rice is grown everywhere around here, so I'm adding some local flair. Okay, so at this point I'm adding half of my wild rice. All right, and now I'm gonna scatter on a layer of my leftover turkey. So if you're making this and it's not Thanksgiving, but you happen to have either leftover turkey or leftover chicken, you can sub in different proteins. Even like ground beef would work. Okay, so now you have a layer of cream soup, a layer of wild rice, and a layer of your turkey, and now just repeat the process, but save some cream soup because that's gonna go on at the end. All hot dishes are casseroles, but not all casseroles are hot dishes. So in order to be a hot dish, it's basically a full meal in a dish. You've got your protein, your veggies, your starch, and then it all gets held together by a creamy soup. Are you guys with me? All right, so pop quiz. Is mac and cheese a hot dish? Answer, maybe. If it had bacon and peas, it could technically be a hot dish. But if it was just mac and cheese, no. Okay, for the next layer, add more turkey. This is gonna be like a Thanksgiving leftover sandwich, but in a form that you could eat out of a bowl with a spoon. Now we're gonna add the last of our cream soup. Oh, this is so thick. Make sure you get every last bit of this cream soup. Now spread it around. Oh, this is gonna be so good. Okay, now the best hot dishes have something great as the topping, whether it's tots or crushed crackers, or today we're gonna be using our leftover stuffing. So just take the stuffing and cover it all over. It's actually like miraculous that I have this much leftover stuffing and that I didn't eat it all yesterday. And any kind of stuffing will work here. Store-bought, homemade, even cornbread stuffing, you name it, it's all good in this dish. Okay, now this is ready to bake. Bake it at 375 for 45 minutes until the edges are bubbly and hot. And if at any time the stuffing starts to look like it could burn, just head the whole thing with foil. If you want though, you could also just stick it in the fridge and wait to bake it until later tonight or even tomorrow. But I'm hungry now. I'm gonna bake it. Here it is, our Thanksgiving leftover hot dish. Are you smelling this? I've got a taste. The stuffing is so crispy on top. I can't wait to eat this. Okay, warning, it's gonna be so hot, hence the name hot dish. So one thing that I love to add to this is a little bit of leftover cranberry sauce. The cranberry sauce will cool it down and add a lovely touch of sweetness. It's gonna be great. With other hot dishes, I like to add ketchup. This kind of like does the same thing. Shall we taste it? Let's taste it. The perfect bite of hot dish has all of the components in one bite. So I'm gonna get a little bit of cranberry sauce, some turkey, some of the cream soup, wild rice, and of course stuffing, and in it goes. This hot dish is so cozy and perfect for the fall. I hope you guys enjoy it. I'm gonna go enjoy mine on the couch.